others celebrate the wins,
Yes.
we celebrate the mud.
each episode has a special guest.
Tony-nominated actress, Broadway's Lily Cooper.
Tashir Zameda.
David A. Gregory.
Getting messy with muddy topics.
We are going to be talking about grief journey.
With hilarious moments
Now get over here.
And deep conversations.
I'm ashamed to even admit this, but this is what happened.
This is Into the Mud.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Into the Mud podcast. While others celebrate the wins,
We celebrate the mud. I'm Alex Cuman.
I'm Drew King, and we're coming to you live from the Barrow Lounge at the Mall in West Village. And today we have two very special guests. We have the wonderful Matt Atkins coming in from North Carolina, and then we have our dear friend Hitesh Tolani coming in from a far, far, far away land. Say hello, Hitesh.
Hey, great. Thanks for having me.
Both of these wonderful men are coming to us live right now from the Gaze of National Parks Instagram page. These are our Instagram queer, gay, social media friends who have developed this beautiful, beautiful online community celebrating queerness in the outdoor spaces. So, gentlemen, do you want to say hello?
Hi, everyone. I'm Matt.
Hey,
Excited
Hitesh,
to be
thanks
here.
for having us.
Yay, amazing. Okay, so we're super, super thrilled to have this conversation today. I am a huge fan of the Gaze of National Parks. I'm also a huge fan of the outdoors, and I love hiking. I love swimming. I'm a fisherman. What are the two of you? What are your backgrounds when it comes to the outdoors? And then I want to get into the roots of how Gaze of National Parks got started. So, how about Matt? You take it away first. What's your history being gay and being an avid lover of the outdoors?
Yeah, so I grew up in North Carolina, in Raleigh, and one thing that I loved about growing up in North Carolina, but Raleigh specifically, is that we're in the middle of the state and we're in the middle of the East Coast. So we had access to just a lot of nature. We learned about the coastal plains and all that and the Outer Banks, and we also had the mountains and then kind of the middle farming regions. So we just had a lot of access to the outdoors, and it was just always something interesting and available. And then I moved down to Miami for college, where it was just a completely different environment that I had never seen before, with the Everglades and beautiful beaches.
Yes.
And so as far as like my interest in the national park specifically was actually, I think COVID was like my first official trip to a formal national park.
Congrats.
Yeah, where I had been outdoors before, but a couple of my friends and I went out to Yellowstone, Grand Teton, and then up to Glacier. We did like all three parks in a week.
I was probably there at the same time as you because I was there during COVID as well.
Yeah.
I wonder if maybe we were like
Maybe.
secretly at the same park and didn't know.
Yeah, I mean, they're huge, but
Yes.
but and like really beautiful, and just really sparked my interest in like this whole community of people that like specifically travel to national parks, like separate from just being outdoors. So that's kind of where my love for the national park specifically spawned from.
Wonderful.
As far as being queer, I mean, I have 4 sisters, so it was a given.
Always.
So yeah, it kind of not surprise there.
I love it. Amazing.
Situation. Yeah.
All right. And Hitesh, well, would you talk to us as well? Because you are the founder of the Gaze of National Parks. And you and I believe first chatted back in 2020. I think it was the end of 2020 or maybe 2021 is when we first chatted. Tell us about your history with national parks and how you founded the Instagram page.
Yeah, I come from a South Asian family, and my parents are immigrants. We do not go outside. It is not a thing that we do. I remember telling my mom for the first time that I was going hiking that we were going to camp, and her response was, "Why would you do that? God has given you a house with a bathroom, running water. Why are you going outside?" And I remember, just saying to her, "Well, my friends are doing it," and I really fell in love. My first time actually even experiencing nature in any real way. I mean, obviously, as humans, we experience nature all the time, right? Like you go outside, you're in school or whatever. But I had just finished school, and I was actually driving from South Carolina to Seattle for my pediatric residency. And my friend Adam, I said to him, I have to drive my car out. You can plan the whole trip. We can do anything you want. You just have to be my buddy splitting the drive with me. So he planned the trip. And one of the things on this trip was going to Badlands National Park. And
Ooh, I love
remember
Badlands.
I had no idea what we were about to get into. In South Carolina, about 20 minutes from my house, there's Congaree National Park, and I had never been in my life.
Oh my gosh.
I grew up in South Carolina. And here we were in the middle of South Dakota about to enter this national park, and you had to pay $20 to get in. And I remember saying to him, we're going to pay $20 to look at dirt. And he was like, Hitesh, just take it as a part of the trip. And so I remember kind of being, kind of having this begrudging feeling of having to pay to go into, nature. But when we drove through, I remember my jaw just dropped. And I think for the first time, I appreciated what it was. I remember writing something about it back home to my mom, saying that I felt that, like my eyes were like a sink, and nature was just so beautiful that like it was overflowing and I just had to let it spill. And that's how beautiful it was. And so I think, so that was my first experience with nature. And then, the camping and her being, why are you going? And now I'm just addicted.
Yeah.
Do you
the
know what's
same
so
way.
funny? That analogy that you said about your eyes, you said this, the only other time I've heard someone say something like that, you said this when we were in Switzerland. We were passing through a mountain range, and you
Yes.
said, I feel like I can't open my eyes wide enough to see everything I want to see.
To take it all in.
To take it all in.
Yeah. Oh, that's so beautiful that you remember that, Alex.
Of
That
course
was
I remember that. I
was
remember everything you said.
30,000 years ago. Oh my
No?
gosh.
Well, what's funny is that when I drove through and when I went there, I didn't know I was gay yet. I'm one of these like late to the game type of gays, right?
So national parks make you gay.
Late to the gay.
I don't know about that, but like I definitely had no clue I was gay when I was going through that park. It didn't come until like 3-4 years later.
Were you like, what
Anyways.
was your first moment in a national park? Were you just like, there's a lot of hot guys hiking around, like sweating up the mountain? Like,
No, like just totally oblivious, not even paying attention to those things.
really?
Like,
I was.
Totally
I was.
oblivious. Yeah.
Same.
Well, we can talk about that if you want, but I had no clue that if you would have told me back then that I would be working on something that has become a labor of love that is to do with gays in national parks, I would have literally looked at you and said, dude, what are you smoking?
You would have been like, I'm
Right.
not
I love
gay.
it. Well,
Right, but here
speaking
we
of
are.
labor of love, can we get a look at your T-shirt? And could you tell us about your T-shirt?
Thank you. So, one of the things that Gays of National Parks does is that it works with queer artists, and they develop shirts that are actually historically accurate for those national parks. So
I
this
love it.
shirt is actually based on Marshall's Beach, which is a part of the Golden Gate National Recreation Area,
Mhm.
and it is historically an LGBTQ beach. It is actually a part of the inspiration for the person who developed the rainbow flag. And
Wow.
this T-shirt is made by a California queer artist named Ross. And as you see, you have two guys walking down to this beach. And if you look closely, there's more people walking hand in hand, or just people just enjoying the LGBTQ beach. So we're everything we do, from the people that run Gays of National Parks, the people who guide the trips, people who create the art, even the manufacturer of the shirt, all the way to the stores that it is sold in, are all LGBTQ owned, operated, and designed.
Bravo.
Mm.
Bravo.
So, it's the community supporting the community. But thanks for asking about the shirt.
Can
So
people purchase that shirt?
Yes, please. It goes to support. It goes to support the artist, and also it helps us give out more grants for people to come on some of our trips.
Beautiful.
So you
Amazing.
can go to our website. You can go to our website and get these shirts.
Great. We'll
Amazing.
attach
and
that
tote
link.
bags and hats and everything else.
Oh,
How
well,
beautiful.
what a perfect dovetail into the work that you do. So tell us about the establishment of Gays of National.
One quick thing.
Yeah.
You are a gay artist who would like to create
Aha.
things. We'd love to support you. So please, reach out to us.
Amazing.
Perfect.
Amazing. Yeah, so we're gonna like you said, dovetail right back in, right into our topic for the day. So we have decided that today's topic of conversation is going to be surrounding generally the idea of queer loneliness, and that the antidote to that is something that you two with Gays of National Park have tried to combat in a really beautiful way, is building community in the great outdoors. So if you both could tell us a little bit about, maybe Hitesh, if you could tell us exactly how Gays of National Park started and then how it snowballed to become what it is today. And then Matt, if you could tell us exactly what you do with Gays of National Parks as a collaborator with them, and especially when helping build stories and celebrating the stories of other queer members in the outdoor community. I'm personally super excited to have this conversation as a fellow gay. I'm very excited.
Yes.
So take it away, Hitesh.
Well, before anything, before being gay, before I'm just a person. I'm a human, right? And then on top of that, I'm a doctor. And I loved Vivek Murthy and all the things he did for our country as a Surgeon General. And one of the things that he focused on was loneliness. And the world is seeing a loneliness epidemic, and that's very pronounced in the United States. There's 4 top tiers of people who are lonely: elderly, teens, immigrants, and then people who are LGBTQ. And what's happening is that we've moved to the point where you don't have to interact with people anymore, right? You can get your laundry done online, you can get everything done online, and what we're seeing is disintegration of the way that we interact with others, and there is pronounced loneliness. And so what you also see specifically in the LGBTQ community is that loneliness is actually even heightened more than some of the others. Over the last 10 years, safe spaces, third spaces, gay spaces, queer spaces have just been dwindling.
Yep.
And those that remain focus on sex, drugs, and alcohol. Now, look, like those things aren't terrible. They have a time and place. But when everything focuses on that in your community, it really does impact your mental health, your drug addiction, et cetera, et cetera. And so having these third spaces are really important. And personally for me, as I told you, I was late to the gay game. So when I realized I was gay, I was 30 years old when I realized it. I had no clue. I had no clue I was gay. And when I finally realized it, I actually went on my first gay date, and I came home and I was like, wow, I'm definitely gay.
I think we've all had that moment.
Right. And but in that realization, I also became very lonely, because I didn't see gays like me. What I saw was what the media was portraying: troubled teen trying to come out, people that were suffering from HIV, people who had been disowned by their families. So where society sets you a standard on what is appropriate behavior, what I was seeing for people who were queer was not who I wanted to be. And I really became, I've literally been told that I'm a mutant extrovert. But in that moment, I really became very insular and didn't want to talk and just didn't know what to do with myself. Very fortunately, I was a part of the Harvard system, this place of full acceptance and so forth and so on. And, there was something to say about that, because some of my peers, kind of came up to me and said, "We're really worried about you. Are you okay?" And in the sheer moment of weakness, I said, "I'm gay." And I remember whispering it. And they were like, "That's it? That's it?" And I was like, "That's it? Do you realize what I'm saying to you?" And they're like, "Yeah, do you know that the head of, this department is gay? And that
We're in Cambridge.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Right?" Robbie Mook, who was Hillary Clinton's campaign manager at the time, was gay, and he is gay, but he was on campus, and
He's straight now?
no,
Oh my God. Okay. Hi,
It was
Robbie.
But they were like, look at all these people that have made such an impact in this country, in politics, in business, in, academia, who are all gay. And finally, I got to start seeing people who were like me. And that was very empowering. And so I finally went on this gay hiking trip with a bunch of buddies. Sorry, I went on a hiking trip with a bunch of buddies from school who were all straight, and I was the only gay one. But when we were in school, I thought I was straight. And we were all dating women, and we were all taking the same exams, applying to residencies. But then they married those women, and all of them are now married to the women that they were dating with families, and I realized I was gay. So our lives started diverging.
Yeah.
And on that hiking trip is where it really kind of came to life, where they were talking about nannies and they were talking about, getting their kids into certain school districts. And I was just quiet. And they said, Hitesh, why are you quiet? And I said, it's because our lives are diverging. I don't think about this anymore.
Wow.
I've never thought about this. And they said, well, what do you think about? I said, honestly, I think about gay community. I think about who are my people. Because, not everyone in my life who calls me on a regular basis is always going to be around. And, who do I go to as I get older? And they said, you think about loneliness? And I said, yeah, I do. And they said, but you're like a mutant extrovert. Like you make all these friends. I said, yeah, I do. And I have wonderful friends, but there are days where I come home and I've had a tough day and I just want someone to hug me. My family lives on the, like way down in South Carolina. I don't live in South Carolina, right? And they said, and then I said, there's days where I'm cooking a meal and I just want to turn to someone and say, hey, please try this. And there's nobody. And I said, you have that on a regular basis. I don't. And that's the case for many LGBTQ people. So they joked around and they said, in these positions, they joked around and they said, well, isn't there an app you can download and geolocate all the gays around you?
There is.
And
Yes.
Alex has a great joke about it.
and my friend, one of them is an infectious disease doc, and he was like, those are really unhealthy. And before you know it, these tall, white, cis men, and by the way, I look back in retrospect and I realize that all my friends growing up before I realized I was gay, were actually all very attractive men. And,
Yeah, tracks.
now I understand why. But they were like talking about, all these deleterious effects of Grindr and Scruff. And they then turned to me and they said, well, what do you think about this? And I said, well, in silo, all of your facts are true. But when you lay those facts across the entire LGBTQ narrative, these apps play a role. They play a role in people who are coming out in rural areas or have difficulty finding community because they're so spread out. I said there's good to that. But yes, it has increased mental health issues and it has increased, dwindling of gay spaces and so forth. So they joked and they said, well, Hitesh, what are you going to do about this? And I said, you think as a short South Asian male with no muscles, I'm going to change gay culture? And they said, well, you're always a rebel rouser. And I was kind of like very annoyed with that, right? Because it's such an important thing and they're my friends, but I was just like, okay, whatever, let's move on. But I came home and as a joke to them, I started this Gays of National Parks Instagram account. And I told them, I'm going to meet gays like me. And, I'm going to meet these outdoorsy gays who love to hike. And hopefully we have something in common. And if it's not like all bots and there's 100 people who join this Instagram account, maybe I'll meet one or two of them to go on a date with or go on a hiking trip with. And that's a 2% ROI of 100 people. And that would be amazing.
That's that doctor brain.
There it is. There it is.
So, they were like, ha ha ha. And what a blessing that trip was because all these people, like overnight, the account just started growing. People just started writing in, saying they're telling their stories. And one of the people was Drew, right? I mean, Drew, that's how you and I met.
Yeah.
And I specifically remember these stories coming in and just being so moved because they weren't thirst traps. They were not about, look at my muscles, look at me on this beautiful mountain.
Yeah.
They were about drug addiction, family, surrogacy, being sex trafficked. They were about how people came out in Mormon, households. And I specifically remember this guy, Drew, who had written in, who I'm talking to right now, who wrote in about his twin brother who was gay.
Oh my gosh.
And I
Oh, wait,
remember-
hold on. He's not my twin brother, but I do have to laugh at that because one of my best friends here in the city, who I've been friends with for like 12 years, like literally 2 years ago, he was like, "You're just so lucky to have a gay twin brother." And I was like, "He's 10 years older than me. He's not my twin." So like,
Oh,
even like
wow.
one of my closest best friends thought that my gay brother was my gay twin brother. But we'll just pretend he is.
I love that.
Okay, well, your brother.
My
I
yeah,
remember
yeah. I have a gay
I
brother.
remember-
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, you guys, I don't know if it was like you looked alike but I remember reading the story and you talking about having this companion. And I specifically asked, at that point, I did not let people know who was running the account because I didn't want the attention. I wasn't looking for anything, right? And I remember reaching out to you and breaking the facade and saying, hey, this is actually run by a real person who happens to be gay. I love this story. Like, can we chat?
yeah.
And I asked you if you would add more to the story or, what you thought this account could do or whatever. And through that process, I've met some amazing people. And what I have loved as I look at the account is once I said to you, I did not see gays like me. But today, if you go to the account, you will see every walk of LGBTQ.
Yep.
You will see, lesbian people. You will see trans women who are the head of the DNC in Arizona. You will see gay Olympic gymnasts. You will see Disney's official voice of Mickey Mouse. You will see people
Mickey's
who
gay?
Knew it.
He is, and he got married in Yosemite National Park.
What?
Wow.
I knew that Minnie was just a
Wow.
beard. Minnie's been a beard all along.
The whole time.
But I think what's really cool about this, right, is that it's not just about telling the story of the national park. It's encouraging people to get outside, to reclaim nature as their third spaces. We've heard people saying, hey, thank you so much for sharing the story about this guy. He lives, I am in my 60s. He's like 50-something years old. He lives 3 hours away, and we've actually become friends.
Oh, beautiful.
Or we've heard stories of people, this one particular couple where one was in Alaska and one was in New York, and they started talking because of gays in national parks. Now they both live in Alaska, and they're together. We've heard, people are, there's two things happening. People are claiming outdoors as a third space, which the Surgeon General says helps convert loneliness to solitude or loneliness to companionship. So that's a good thing. But then also people around the country are identifying people like them. They are reading each other's stories. They're connecting either virtually or in person, which is far more than I could have ever asked for. And it has been lovely. And through that process, I met some wonderful people also who said, I don't think you're crazy and I'm going to help you do it. And one of them is sitting right next to you. And, I'm so grateful for people like Matt.
And this site, just to give a general overview for folks who aren't familiar, because as I was looking, you highlight people's individual stories, that people can tag the account, people can send their stories in, but then you also organize trips as well, correct?
Yeah, actually, GLAAD has called us the gay version of Humans of New York, but we do now organize
I like
these
that.
trips.
I like that.
Okay, awesome.
We do now organize these
Awesome.
trips, which
Love it.
get people out there.
Yeah. And okay, so now, Matt,
Matt.
it's your turn. I want to hear. So, as I believe you are the the creative narrative director of Gays of
Essentially,
National
yeah.
Parks. Yes.
We're still working on what
Okay, great.
titles, but yeah,
There we go.
So I help people write their stories. So
Beautiful.
at the time when you submitted your story, Hitesh was doing all that by himself, going back and forth with. It's a lot of work, right?
Yeah.
Getting the right photos. Can you add a little bit more of this story? We also try to make sure that the stories are both about your outdoor experience and your queer experience. Some people either will give us one or the other.
Okay.
And that's interesting. But I'm there to kind of prompt them of like, can you talk about, like, someone had mentioned hiking with their sister or something, like this experience of hiking with their sister. So then when it comes to the photos, I'm like, I noticed you didn't include any photos of your sister. I'd love a photo of your sister to include in this, like, wrap up this story, kind of make like sense,
Cohesive.
for our audience.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of that work. I have experience in marketing in general, but I just love social media because of that ability to connect with people and And then what I was drawn to for like Gaze of National Park specifically was because of that same feeling that Hitesh had of like, I didn't feel loneliness in the same way as like, I had close friends and I didn't feel this like diverging path. But for me, it was like, I don't have a community of people that I feel like I resonate with.
Okay.
So like, yeah, the media portraying queer relationships or just people in certain lights, parades, parties, drugs.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wasn't interested in that. And so it felt very much like I don't have a community of queer people that are just interested in things that I'm interested in.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I saw this account, I was blessed by the algorithm and came across this account.
Same.
Yeah.
Yep.
I reached out and I said, like Hitesh said, like, I want to help in any way because this is exactly what I've been looking for, this type of community. And so, you mentioned our trips. So we had our first trip was to Big Bend last year for the solar eclipse.
I wanted to go so bad. I'm so sad I couldn't make it. I haven't been able to make any trips yet. I really wanted to go.
Yeah, they're incredible. So I didn't go on Big Bend either, but I went on the second one to Yosemite.
Okay.
And that was actually my first time really camping. I had been outdoors and done kind of like cabin camping and things like that. But what I loved about that was I actually showed up a day late because Hitesh almost begged me to come, kind of. I really wanted to go, but I was already committed to a yoga retreat in El Salvador.
Okay.
So I was like, I just can't go.
Yeah.
And then it was like, if I arrive one day late, I'll see if I can make it happen. So I like switched my flight from El Salvador to go to Sacramento to then rent a car and like drive into the park by myself. So I was like so nervous showing up in this group of people. I was like, they already met yesterday. Everyone's going to be clicked up just like every other space. And then it just wasn't like that at all.
Wow.
And I also wanted to mention that Marco's another member of our team who like designs most of our trips.
Hi, Marco. Wherever you are, Marco.
Yeah. So Marco's been an artist in residence in a lot of these parks.
Beautiful.
So he has a lot of experience in knowing the hikes and all those kinds of things. So he provided us with like a very detailed packing list. And as a person who's never camped before, I was like, I'm just going to buy everything on the list. I don't know. And then I get there and everyone looks at me like, wow, you're so prepared. How long have you been hiking? And I was like, this is my first time.
You tricked them.
Yeah, I just got all the things that our team members said that we needed. And it was a great experience.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't feel like I was unprepared. And again, the community was very welcoming. The park staff was also really great with us. So it was just a really awesome experience. And then from there, we had a few more trips last year. And then this year is our first year as a team really being intentional about what those trips are going to look like, who we want to bring, what those destinations are. And so we're just really excited to see where it goes from here.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful and so special. And I promise I will make one of those trips. I'm hoping that I can make the one that we chatted about on the phone. We'll talk about that later. But,
why do we start doing the trips? There were because it was started off as an Instagram account. Like, how do you get into doing trips? I mean, what happened was that there were just a bunch of people that kept writing in that you thought, like, I really wish you could meet this person or you could meet this person. So I just invited them. I said, hey, I'm going to go to watch this total solar eclipse. You should come. And then when they got there were 22 people from around the world. They came from around the world, okay? Many from the U.S., but from Hong Kong, London. They came from Germany. They came from all around the world. And they ranged from every socioeconomic demographic. They ranged from every corner of the country. And there was an elder gentleman who was a very senior executive at a healthcare company. And as he was leaving, he started just like literally bawling. And I was just like, what happened? Are you okay? Like, is everything fine? And he was like, I didn't think I needed this as much as I really did. And he's like, I hope that you will continue doing this. So now what we do is, we run these trips, right? And people do pay to come, but we use the proceeds to actually give out stipends to those who couldn't afford to come. So some of our stipend recipients have been, people who are trans, people who are refugees, people who are artists. And we build these trips to get people from, different walks of life to come into the parks. The parks open their doors to us They like help us build community service within the parks. They help us, essentially build a trip out for these, individuals. And what it is that there are some people that they really want to build community and they really want to figure out how to get into nature, but they don't know how.
Yeah.
So what we do is we really just start to kickstart that. And now for every trip, we actually have these what we call cohorts, and they're all on WhatsApp groups, and we then monitor and watch them over the time, right? So like for example, we had a cohort that went to Joshua Tree, and they all just met up in Boston. Like they all just met up in Boston, and then the WhatsApp thread just starts going like crazy because they're all like texting pictures to each other and like so forth. And our goal is that once people get out there, they kind of feel more confident in going out themselves, not maybe together or with others, right? And we do encourage people within the community to reach out to each other respectfully and say, hey, like, I think you're an hour away from me. I don't know you exist. Do you want to go for a hike or whatever? And people have started doing that too.
Wow.
So we run the trips to allow people to come who otherwise couldn't afford to come through the proceeds, and also just to help kickstart people who think this is not for me, girl. If I could do it, trust me, you can do it. Okay. And Marco, as Matt said, he is an artist in residence in multiple national parks, and I think he literally is a walking like all trails. Like he's a walking human.
Oh, I love
trails.
that. I love that.
Yeah, and it's just pretty amazing. So yeah. Anyways, that's a little bit about our trips.
It's so beautiful. Well, actually, I have to ask you, Alex. What have you been to a national park yet?
Not to national parks, but I've done camping and
Loser, get out. You're not welcome in this conversation.
I can't believe it.
Oh no!
But
nature.
I was gonna say no, but I wanna
Nature, yes.
nature.
Nature's good.
But I was gonna say that I feel like any sort of camping, outdoors, like fend for yourself, be outside, away from electronics, away from all the stuff, really accelerates the relationships of the people that you're there with.
Absolutely.
Like I think this is such a beautiful the container that you have set up here with this organization is like giving exponential growth to the people that get to experience it, because you really, I don't know what it is. Maybe you guys can speak to this a little bit more, but what is it about being in the outdoors that feels so extraordinary, I guess? What is the stuff that comes up for you when you are camping, when you are hiking, when you are not even like the trips, but like what is it about being outside in nature that feels so expansive?
I guess I can speak from my experience a little bit. I grew up in New England. I grew up in Massachusetts. The outdoors were kind of always a part of my life. Not intensely. We didn't go to national parks when I was a kid. But, I mean, I think maybe we went to Acadia National Park when I was a kid. That was the only one because it's in Maine. But
Beautiful.
I love Acadia. It's gorgeous. However, but my stepfather taught me how to fly fish when I was a kid, so I spent a lot of time in the outdoors. I also was a very anxious kid. Surprise, surprise. I'm sure you're not surprised by that at all. So I was very anxious, and I used to get these really bad headaches when I was a kid, and I remember the only time that the headaches would go away was when I was outside in nature fishing. It was a form of meditation for me, and a way that I was able to reconnect back with nature. It didn't matter. School didn't matter. My studies didn't matter. If I was anxious about being bullied, it didn't matter. It was there's something about being in nature felt so restorative and clean and pure. I mean, we all essentially come from nature, so I think there is this innate desire to reconnect back with outdoor spaces. It's everything. It's the fresh air. It's the color palette. It's seeing all the different, the vegetation, the animals. It's all of that. So for me, and then in particular, the national parks was my break from the pandemic. And also I was so fortunate. It's part of my story on the Gaze of National Parks page, but I got to celebrate 6 weeks of national parks with my gay brother. And that was also in the wake of our mom passing away. So, our mom passed away in 2018, pandemic hit in 2020. And then I got 6 weeks of uninterrupted time with my brother, which is a lot to spend with your brother. But if you love your brother, and then also my brother's gay, so we're like-minded. And we felt safe having each other being in the great outdoors because a lot of those spaces are generally very heteronormative, especially if you're at an RV park outside of Yosemite, you're like, "Ooh, maybe my shorts are a little too short." So, like that kind of spooked me out a bit. But being able to reconnect in nature with my brother, who's also gay, also just be in nature, and it's not about being gay. It's just simply about being outdoors and having my own personal community. And I think what I love about what you all have done with Gays of National Parks is everything that you've already spoken to and you've touched upon is that you have built this community. I think what it means to be queer and finding your community can mean so many different things. And there are a lot of people who gravitate towards the sex and the drugs and the parties, which no shame. And, to each their own, or as my friend says, to each a son. So it's for everybody, whatever you want, whatever your path is. But having outdoor community and being able to find other gays in the outdoor community space is really like so special, so special for me. So I
also think that on these trips, what happens is that, look, I love a girl. I am like any other gay. I love going out, and when I go out, right? Well, I mean, I don't drink, but like, when I go out, like I'm so focused on, how do I look? Like, is this guy checking me out? Is he not? And because I probably don't drink, I'm like, I have just so much anxiety.
Oh, yeah.
I'm always just like, oh my God, am I sucking it in enough? Like, I mean, you're constantly thinking about your image. You're constantly thinking about how you look, like how you're perceived. Okay. When you're hiking, you are sweating. Okay. You are just like, I don't care if I'm sucking it in. Just let me get me up on top of this mountain. I just need to stop. Right. And you are forced to start talking because there is nothing to do on that trail.
Yeah.
And what it does is that it forces you to get to know the person. It forces you to put your guard down a little bit, right? And the environment is just slightly changed. So I love going out. I love meeting friends and, listening to great music. But the nature of the venue is more conducive to actually getting to know the human. And I think that's what's happening. So whether you come on a Gays of National Parks trip or whether you just literally force your friends to go out for a hike, it gets the same thing across, right? And the other thing that you mentioned, I'm always going to turn back to research, right? Oh, the R word that is so taboo now, right? But, okay, research. Research shows that being in nature lowers our heart rate. It lowers our anxiety. So you're more likely to have those conversations. Seeing greens and blues in nature actually help
with color palette.
The color palette. There's things called forest bathing, right? Where just the sounds and literally some of the things in the air that we breathe in those areas actually help with our, just overall health. So this is not rocket science. It is just a bunch of gays that are like, hey, look, if the mountains can exist, so can we. So we're just going to, take advantage of this.
I love that. Even walking side by side next to someone rather than sitting and facing them allows for deeper conversation. It just takes a little bit of the stress off of having to look someone in the eye if you're saying something big or scary or whatever. So that's a thing I've suggested to friends too. They're like, I have to have a tough talk. I'm like, go for a walk. Don't do it sitting at a table. So I think that's really also smart. A piece of it too.
That's great. I think connection or connectedness is a really important word in this. That Hitesh brings the research and the doctor mind, and I'm the yoga teacher, kind of woo woo.
Yeah, I love
and
this.
Being connected with not just the people, but with nature. We are all one being, and all this, whatever, in any really spiritual religion, people believe this connection exists, and we're just so disconnected in our current iteration of society that somebody decided a long time ago and we all subscribe to, right? So I do think this is a way of combating that, and everybody is so starved for that connection. And I think it's part of why the account blew up so organically, without us having to, running ads and things like that. We haven't done any of that yet. It's very organic because people want that connection that they can get with each other and then in nature, you know.
Mhm. It's
Totally.
beautiful.
You know, I have a question for Matt. I mean, we work together,
Sure.
but never gotten to ask.
Please,
Question
I
for
love,
Matt.
I love this coworker questioning. Please.
So, you know, when I first started the account, it was like these people were writing in, and you know, I got to like read these stories, and you know, but it was a fewer number of people. But today, Matt is actually the one that is seeing like even more diversity come through. Like, you know, he's seeing like all of these stories come through, and I'm wondering, Matt, I haven't asked you this, but like, you've seen stories that haven't even been posted. You've been talking to people. What are one of the things that was so special was that, and you can't do everything when you're trying to build something and, you know, help more people take access to it. But one of the things is like talking to individuals and like, you know, understanding their story a little bit more. I'm wondering what trends Matt is seeing and like what he's hearing from, you know, people from different parts of the country, and just like the vibe he gets from, you know, talking to the actual people writing in.
It's a great question. Take it away, Matt.
Yeah, I think it hasn't changed too much from the original kind of, you know, mission of just like people looking for that connection. I will say there is like a little portion of people being like, I'm looking for a boyfriend, and we're like, okay,
We're not a matchmaker.
it could
but
happen.
It could.
Not
It
yet.
could happen.
Yeah.
That's not what we're here for, but it could happen. You know, we're really looking for more of that, like any kind of relationship connection that you
Mhm.
can form with people. So a lot of people will include on their stories like, I'm looking for hiking buddies, or like, I'm going to this trip specifically, like if you're in the area. We've had a few stories of people that were either past park rangers or used to work in the park, and will say like, if you're ever in the area, I'm happy to be your guide. So it is just a lot of that. Like, I think the trend really is like, they are looking for that in-person version of like, how can I use this platform that's online to reach this audience of people, but invite them into like, if you are in my area, come meet me, come say hi.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think that is really the trend of like, it's connection, but deeper than just a parasocial,
Yeah.
you know, relationship.
Mhm.
It's such a nice way to think about social media, because I think
Yeah.
both Drew and I talk about this a lot of like, social media can be such a toxic place, and it can be
100%.
such a hard place
Yeah.
to grow on, if or just to be on in general without comparing yourself. But I think the beautiful thing about your page is it is truly so genuine, and it's there almost it's there as a vehicle to get people off of the page.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's like, come here, find your people, then go.
And then
Yeah.
disconnect.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll also say that like, we don't have any like filter as far as like who we share. We want to share everyone that is willing to share. We try to look for more diverse stories and things like that. But the one thing that I will say when somebody sends me a story that I'll say like, I need more before I share your story, is that vulnerability piece.
Yeah.
That those are the stories that do really well.
Mm-hmm.
People that are actually willing to open up. You know, from time to time, if it's just like, here's some great pictures of me in Yosemite, okay,
Yeah.
fine. But like, I am upfront with people of like, if you really want this story to perform well for yourself and for us, you know, we collaborate on it. It's there on their page as well. That piece of vulnerability, whatever it is, it could be about
Yeah.
anything.
Anything.
Is really powerful. People are looking for that, and then we get to see such encouraging comments on those posts, which we love. So
Well, and it's so funny to like use the term perform really well, because really what's happening is it's
Yeah.
just connecting with a broad range of people,
Yeah,
right? So
that's true.
it's just proof that vulnerability is actually the thing
Mhm.
that connects us, as opposed to
Correct.
putting this, oh, this is maybe what I think people want to hear. This is the
Yeah.
cute picture of me. And it's like, no, it's actually maybe a pain point. Maybe it's a thing you haven't shared before. And that's really like the goal of our podcast, is
Correct.
to be like connecting with people through the stuff that we're not necessarily always eager to talk about first.
Correct.
You know, I want to point out that I think our account is a little unique. Obviously, everyone who's running it is going to think that, but you have a lot of accounts or Instagram influencer like entities, right?
Mhm. Yep.
And they are the face, they are the people, and then their voice, they don't realize it. You know, sometimes is like taken as what the general public is asking for, or they become a voice that people are listening to. With my public health mind, every time I look at the account, what I really love, right, is we are not we, like the people running it, are actually not the influencers.
Yeah.
It's the general public.
Yeah.
They are writing their stories and they're telling their own narratives. And I think because of that, the community has grown to the point where it is a social media account, but there's only been 7 comments, according to what I know. Matt may have a different number now, but only 7 comments have been deleted because people really encourage each other, and it's a part of what has become our community.
Beautiful.
When we have our trips, there was actually somebody who came on the trip who was a trans individual. And what he said was, I always feel out of place. I'm so nervous of am I going to be accepted. And he goes, when I came on this trip, I didn't know how I would be feeling. But by the nature of the people who self-select into our trips or just come on the trips, you know, when they showed up, right? He goes by they or he. He was like, I feel like I just belong here. And I think the self-selecting nature of it, the fact that the influencers are just our community is what makes it so powerful, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're not writing those stories. Like, we're
Yeah,
asking you more questions. But I think that's what's so lovely is that it's not our voice, it's the community's voice coming in together.
It's so special. And you both and Marco, you 3, everyone included, should be so deeply proud of this community that you've built. I feel loneliness as a gay man in very many areas of my life as well. And this feels like the antidote to that. It's really so beautiful and so special. You know, there's so much discrimination and hate on social media and on the sex apps and on the dating apps. There's so much ghosting. There's so little genuine connection, especially in metropolitan areas like New York City. And so knowing that there is a space for the queer community to come together and find love and belonging and acceptance, regardless of who you are, or how you identify, is so special. I think that what the work that you are all doing is so remarkable, and I'm so grateful that it exists. And I hate to have to say this, but we have to wrap up, which makes me want to throw this microphone.
No.
But I am so deeply proud that we were able to host you all, and I can't wait to share this. It's definitely going to be a
Really
Pride Month
exciting.
episode, so I'm
Yes.
excited to have this be one of our June episodes.
Can you ask us for final thoughts?
Yes.
Yeah. Quickly, you
You're like,
have two
what do
two
you-
sentences attached.
Okay, wait, ask Matt first.
Okay, Matt, go first.
Oh, I mean, I think my final thoughts really are just that you can find this kind of connection in any way. This is just the vehicle that works for us because it's what we're interested in.
Mm-hmm.
And so I will say that everyone is welcome in our community and our trips and everything, but don't let that stop you from finding that elsewhere too.
Yeah, beautiful. Hitesh, take it away.
My final thoughts are, I think that I am viscerally grateful, just tremendous gratitude for people like you, for anyone who we've reached out to help us, people in the National Park Service from end to end who've helped us.
Yep.
Also, one of the things that's become so powerful is state governments, like the state of New York has recently partnered with us.
Yep.
And they're providing us the Catskills to build these intergenerational LGBTQ retreats in even state parks now.
Mm-hmm.
And just the concept of the fact that what we do matters and that government entities are saying, hey, we think this is important, and the fact that it can impact mental health. So
your reach is broad.
As a healthcare provider, I mean, what more could you want, right?
Yeah.
So I hope that if you have listeners in New York that you'll come to the Catskills, because we definitely want to show a good showing for the state of New York. So
Yeah. Amazing. All right, and
We'll attach all of the socials and everything. We have to do this super rapidly.
we do our rapid fire round at the end. So we're going to do 5 for Hitesh and 5 for Matt. It's going to be as quick as possible. Alex, take it away.
Okay, here we go. Tent or camper van?
Ooh, camper van.
Sunrise hike or sunset bonfire?
Sunset bonfire.
Mountain peak or ocean cliff?
Mountain peak.
Car camp or hike in camp?
Hiking camp.
Hammock or sleeping bag?
Hammock.
Okay, say hello in French.
Bonjour. That's
Okay.
good morning.
Favorite nature drag queen?
I mean, there's Marco.
Okay, great. Okay, kill, fuck, marry. S'mores, hot dogs, kebabs.
Kill s'mores. Fuck the hot dog.
Yes, honey.
Marry the kebab.
Okay, rank these national parks starting with the best. Glacier, Grand Teton, Yosemite.
Yosemite, Glacier, Grand Teton.
Okay, and what's
Actually,
your
oh my God, no, that's blasphemy.
final answer? Final answer.
No,
Final
they're
answer.
blasphemy.
Final answer.
They're all great.
Okay, they're all number one. Okay, and final question. What's your favorite puppy breed?
Oh, I'm such a basic bitch. The golden doodle.
Yes, honey. We love a golden dude.
Love.
golden dudes.
Thank you guys so much for being on today. We're going to link all of the links in the bio and make sure we get all the t-shirt information out and all that fun stuff. Everyone follow Gaze of National Parks.
Malika
Yeah,
follow.
give Malika a
subscribe
follow, yeah.
As well. And thank you.
Thank you all
again.
so
Thank
much.
you so much for being
Yes.
here. You came all the way up from North Carolina.
Yeah.
Everyone
Yes.
get outside.
Yes,
Get
go
outside.
outside.
Take your
Go
friends
outside.
Amazing.
Claim nature as your third
Yes.
space.
Take a trip. All right.
Amazing.
Thank you,
you guys.
Hitesh. Thank you, Matt. We love you all. Everyone, give us a like, a follow, a subscribe, and we'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.